Patch 8 for Baldur's Gate is currently in testing, with the release planned to be probably pretty soon now, though we don't have any official confirmation. But with that in mind, I haven't actually touched Baldur's Gate in over a year. Many builds that seemed very obscure that I used to play with a year ago have actually become quite mainstream and popular. There's also a lot more information on sort of the best items to support that. So in leading up to the preparation for Patch 8, what I've decided to do is go back through Honor mode and start revising some of my old builds and looking to do what I'm going to do with a full party run the next one. Now, a lot of build videos that people do is very level 12 end game, and it's not actually really taking you through parts of the game and how to do it and how you deal with certain encounters, when to respec, whereas it's mostly some will theory craft quite well. There's actually a very good creator that does that, Remortus, who obviously shares the same space as me when it comes to Rogue Trader, and his have actually been very useful to sort of get me up to date on the updates in. So yeah, shout out to that man for keeping up the good work for over the last year. But for myself, when I look at a lot of the other builds, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to step on other YouTubers' toes, it's all very Act 3, level 12, I've respec'd at level 12, here's the end game items. I'm like, yeah, but what do you do for the other 99% of your run? So that's what I'm going to be looking to do. So when I take through those builds, and I might even be live streaming some of this whilst I do some testing, especially on Honor mode, is I want to show you what I do in each step. Sort of, here's my level 1 to 3, here's my level 4 to 6, here's what I do, here's when I respec. The builds, for me, I want them online in Act 1, and then I want Act 2 and Act 3 to be upgrades. If that requires a little bit of respecking and changing along the way, then sure. I'm not a big fan of respecking, but with Baldur's Gate, the fact is, it costs 100 gold. It's actually cheaper than resting to get your spell slots back that way. So I don't think there should be any reason against it. So to get ready for that, what I decided to start doing with planning for those builds and those runs and collecting those items is trying out all the new legendary encounters. So here's what we've been doing in Act 1. Now, I'm very aware that the Null Fight isn't a legendary encounter, which I'm surprised. I feel like it should be. But this is probably one of those encounters that I think is the early hard part and challenge thing. For me, this encounter is where I will always use the horn to get the ogres in, because if you can do that, then it just saves you getting through here. If you can already be level 4, it does make it a little bit easier. If you're at level 3, then you're definitely going to want to do that. Trying to limit down their movement, stop them getting into your back line, and yeah, having the ogres be the main distraction, it's really going to help you get through this encounter. Legendary action that we're looking at here is it summons a mate, so it's essentially 2 owlbears. Now, when you're in the dialogue, you can actually switch to your other companions, and you can sneak them around to get up to it, or you can try to use a persuasion check or an animal handling check to let yourself in. You can even speak to the owlbear to get your allies into position by talking through it. Now, the clone, which is the father, can't crit from what I've been told, and I didn't notice it doing it here. Needs fact checking. However, you do want to kill him first, because if you kill the mother first, you can't save the baby. If you kill the father first, you can then, when the mother dies, the baby will no longer be hostile. Or you can kill it. It depends on what you're trying to do with your run. Now, what I like to do is I've put my warlock and my swordsbard up on the higher ranks here. So if you have any ranged companions, that's where you want to sort of sneak them to. So they can get the height advantage, which for throwing builds gives you extra gravity damage. For rangers or even your spellcasters that are using their melee touches, it makes you more likely to land your hits. The AI at the moment is distracting one of the owlbears. I've put on the Cloak of Daggers to help with the damage here. And then I've got my party. The plan is to distract Mother. Like I said, we do want to kill the mate first. So we're probably going to have to try and pull one of our characters over to that, which means we're going to take an attack of opportunity. So what I'm going to try and do is do a menacing attack on the owlbear itself. By getting it frightened, that means I should be able to get the movement I need to go for it. Like I said, I do want to kill the mate first. So the next one's the Space Spider. Before Honor mode, you used to be able to do this very easily. I'll show you the old strategy. It used to be, whilst it was just down here, you could just Eldritch Blast and repel it into the pit. Unfortunately, that no longer works. You can still get the insight for it, but it teleports back up now. They do that for quite a few of the little fights here. But what you can do is you can destroy the webs it's on, and it will drop down and take damage, and gravity will do most of the work. So this way, with gravity doing most of the work, it's going to take quite a bit of damage from falling. It's going to get knocked prone, which is going to reduce its movement. If you're already level 4, then there's not much more you're going to need to worry about this encounter. You just got to be careful that not too many of the spiderlings get grouped up and come after you. But as long as you sort of gone with that setup right, and you're aware that the legendary action is if you attack the other spiders when the queen's within sight, that the queen will actually entangle you. So you kind of want to focus on her when she's close and not worry about the other spiders. And it's kind of where you want to sort of burst her down first, rather than worrying about everything else. Because if you watch here, if I go in and I attack this spider here, then it triggers the legendary action and we get infested. Once you're infested, you can't move, can't take actions, and you have to do fire damage to get her out of that. So that can be quite annoying, and it can also give the matriarch more turns to set up all these little annoyances because you focus on trying to do that. However, Cloud Daggers really does destroy them. Any area stuff, even thrown items like the little fireballs you get, also very useful for that. But like I said, just focus on the spider matriarch and then worry about the little spiders afterwards. It shouldn't be too much trouble from level 4 onwards. Now, the next legendary counter is in the Goblin camp. Now, what you can do is you can use an illusion to group them up here, and then you can set off a Cloak of Daggers. Now, the mechanics here for this fight is when you attack his subordinates, he can give them action surges. If you have your throw build or even your range builds just up top, you can focus on trying to burst down your Razzling first, and then once Razzling is down, you can then just mop up the goblins, and they're not too much of a problem themselves. Luckily, because of these rafters, this is where you see how ridiculous throwing barbarians are. Now, the bonus one will knock down, which is kind of where you want to go into thief from this. So you have 2 actions in turn 1, and then you'll have 2 attacks subsequent turns. But just have a look at some of this meaty damage from when you throw down here. So he's in the exact right spot to go for this. So I missed, and it still did 12 damage. That's on a miss, he took 12 damage, and it knocked him straight into the cloak. Oh, wow. Just... So that did 19 plus the 4 fire damage, and then extra full damage of 9 damage. So, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. So, yeah, sniping things off from up here. If things come up, you can always push them down. It can be sometimes a bit finicky to actually get some of the paths here, but you should be pretty good to be picking stuff off. But like you can see there, the damage, it's just obscene. 35 damage there, 5 from fire damage, 9 from the crushing damage. Another one got 14 bludgeoning on the crushing damage. It's, yeah, having things up high, very good. And then using some more AoE to take things out. Like, if you can get to level 5, so you just go in the Underdark, the experience you get from going down there. Hunger of Hadar, once they're all grouped up here, will really help you just breeze through this encounter, because then they can't move, and then you can just rain down death on them. Now, I'm actually going to start moving my Cleric a little bit over, because she's got Fireball here. Glyph of Warding, though, also very, very good, but I kind of like me a Fireball, you know? Yeah, so that's pretty much most of the goblins are already wiped out, and this is before they've even had a chance to act themselves. So it comes their turn. He's in the cloak, he's using his leadership. His friend who's going to get leadership probably not going to make it out too far himself. The massive disadvantage he has trying to throw at Astarion. I'm surprised he even managed to hit him there. That was probably because of the crit. But yeah, so if we use the Slashing Flourish ranged here, like I said, you can turn his attack into 2 attacks, bink bink. And yeah, this encounter becomes very easy when you do it this way. A lot of people like to set up exploding barrels and try to take it out. You don't need to. It's a very, very, very easy encounter with just a tiniest amount of setup. Now, the next main encounter for legendary actions is the Beholder. As you go into the Underdark, if you attack one of these statues here, you can start the encounter without getting surprised. If you start around him, this is a very tough encounter. Like I said, just attack the statues from within the fortress up here, and then you can sort of move in, get your guys to hide, and you can try and lure him up and lure him over. So by doing it that way, you can fight with the advantage and not be so close that every one of you guys is going to get paralyzed and multi-attacked. Now, sometimes the spectator will fly up, other times he won't. In the scenarios where he doesn't fly up, you can actually set up on this rock and just get some high ground advantage, and you kind of want to burst him down first, because everyone that he revives here, they're sort of enthralled, bewitched sort of thing. But yeah, see that paranoid dreams and all that sort of stuff? You really don't want to get caught by that. It does a lot. But now I'm actually going to start, so I've let him do his thing where he's been, well, get everyone out of the stone slab, so that way I can talk to him and I can even get another encounter afterwards. But for now, I've got myself sort of out of the way, so you can just sort of use your team to rain down on him. Now, you can use stuff like Arrow of Darkness to try and limit his sight, but then you can't really attack into it yourself. Overall, I just find it best just to go in for as many attacks as you can. Use the height advantage. Yes, for me at the moment, it's outside of the range of my hand crossbows. But yeah, just dropping in that little 42 damage. That's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. And then I've still actually got my Karlach up here. I was hoping he would come all the way up here to me. But I'm just going to move her down, get her into combat, and then probably just finish him off. Because of the height advantage that we're going to have from the throwing bits here, you're going to do a lot. And if you've been, I didn't do that just yet, but if you've been every level up farming the Hill Giant Strength Potions from the Grove before you go down to see the, well, Auntie Ethel, before you reveal who she is, you can easily have 21 strength for most of your characters here. At every level, every long rest, you can get 3. So it's quite useful to do. And you can see, yeah, where I've brought Karlach into this, she's again done 21 damage from throwing. If you've got the returning spear, that's going to come back to your hand. If you've picked up the ring of throwing, that's an extra d4. If you've got a firing on, again, that's another extra d4. And then you can just sort of easily take out the spectator. If you'd actually fought him down there, he's a lot more trouble. But yeah. The next encounter is probably the hardest one, which is the Bulette. The Bulette, its legendary action, it gets 100 over health, and whilst it has that, it has an ability called Diamond Scales. What that does is it ignores any source of damage below 20. This means if your attack has multiple sources of damage, it doesn't take 20 from that total. It takes that per damage source. So my Karlach does a throwing build of possibly 20 to 30 on the throw itself because of the double strength bonus, plus a d4 fire, plus a d6 poison. However, the d4 fire and the d6 poison will be ignored by the Bulette because of this, which means you need someone who has high enough damage to be able to do it. So you need someone with Sharpshooter or Great Weapon Master or Tavern Brawler to even be able to do the initial damage. Once you're through that first 100, the rest of your party can actually get to work. So what I did in this encounter was I actually had Gut with me. I had Gut revive one of the Minotaurs. You can also go with the Hook Horrors, and this will activate Territorial. This is mostly to stop him focusing your party at the start, so you can try and set something up. If you want to set up something like Plant Growth, Hunger of Hader to limit its movement, and then you want a high damage dealer to do something, Swords Bard with Sharpshooter or Ranger with Sharpshooter will do. Or, in my case, Karlach with her Enraged throwing build. What's also useful about her throwing build is her throwing stuff will also knock down on the bonus attack, that is. So as you can see here, because of Diamond Scales being under 20 damage gets ignored. Now, Hunger of Hader, we limit his movement. Then we can, with our allies, if we need to do any healing or any other stuff from outside the battle, we can do that, or we can just skip their turns and wait. By limiting the movement and by having the zombie ally in front of it, it keeps the Bulette under control, which means the rest of our team isn't going to get pooned. By letting him then worry about the Minotaur, I can then worry about the rest of my party and get through that initial armor. Now, obviously, Glut himself isn't going to do much from there. Did I call him Guts earlier? Anyway, Glut. You can use big magic attacks, so if you look at his resistances, you can see what all physical damage takes half here. So you can still get him with some big elemental stuff. So the glyphs, very good. Fireballs, very good. Scorching Rays aren't going to do too much. You need big enough damage that you're going to be able to get for those scales. I've obviously misplaced that, so he's not done that. My piercing shot there did under 20 damage, so that got ignored. Like, if I do the same here with my Eldritch Blasts. So those two blasts together would have done over 20, but because they're individual sources of damage, it doesn't count. I do have glyphs on my cleric as well, so if I actually place this correctly, you'll see where the damage actually happens now. And that seemed to actually hit it for 17, even though that wasn't where it should have been. Interesting. But anyway, so yeah, throwing barb, very strong. 29 damage there, so yippee. You can also use some smoke powder bomb, stuff like that. But you, like I said, you just need something that's going to do over that 20 damage to get for that threshold. Once you're then through that, now all sources of damage are going to work, and you're absolutely going to go to town and have a good time. Next one is going to be Nere. Nere in the Forge, his legendary encounter, he creates 3 copies of himself and he can explode them. So this one's quite easy because you can side with the deep dwarves or whatever these ones are called. I forget what they're called. You can side with them so they actually betray him. So you'll actually have like this little civil war two-way fight here. So they'll get involved and help you. You can help them, and you can clear this fairly easy. There's some other options, but I prefer just to kill him. Again, got my rangers up here so they can start focus on Nere. If you help the actual dudes as well, they'll be able to clear out a lot of stuff and focus him down. Just be wary of his summoning glowing gloves so you don't want to get exploded. And you can also get him with Hold Person. He's actually quite susceptible to it. I had many times quite a bit of success with it. But be very careful with the lava. You don't really want to position yourself where you can get knocked into that. You can also try and knock him into the gas and explode that, which is what I went for here. I knocked one of them straight into lava. Be very careful when you go to pick up that loot later. This time I didn't knock them far enough back. But you're not going to have too much trouble with this encounter. Luckily, you also have great use of gravity as well. Any encounters where you have use of gravity, having a throwing build is going to trivialize it like crazy. At the moment, so my Swordsbard got charmed, but I don't care. I'm still just throwing stuff down there to just take things out. The deep dwarves, or whatever. Dregar? I think that's Dregar. Yeah, no, they're actually doing a lot here. But yeah, Nere himself, he's not all that strong. So if you focus him and burst fire him down a little bit, you're not really going to need to worry. You can limit his movement with Hunger of Hadar. You can see here I was considering it there. But what I actually ended up doing was I used an upcasted Hold Person from the Warlock, so I could actually take out these two. And I was successful in holding Nere here, which means he's going to be very easy to burst down when my companions get close to him, even on their ranged builds. So yeah, set up that glyph there, moving in, using my Sword Flourish here so I can have more attacks, and huge damage. And because I've got Sharpshooter on here as well, we're doing almost up to 40 damage per shot here. So we got 2 there. I'm using Historian's bonus bite action, which again is going to crit. Yeah, it's a very, very easy way to take him down there. Yeah, like I said, being susceptible to Hold Person, so you can have that on a Warlock, you can have that on Swordsbard, I think you can get that on Sorcerer, you can have it on a Wizard, you can have it on your Clerics. Hold Person, Hold Monster, absolutely fantastic to always have those handy. I'm probably going to say this wrong, so for now I'll just call him Grym. This one is one of the easiest legendary encounters. You can actually control the pillars, all the controls for the Forge, from outside the arena. So you set it to go down with either an arrow or Eldritch Blast, and then you can use 2 casters with illusion magic to basically cast cats onto the Forge. He'll destroy one and then just stand there, and then you can call down the hammer and just take him out. As far as I'm aware, even if you tried doing something with a Throw Barbarian, you actually can't get there because of the pathway. So throwing Barbarian's not really the way here. You could rain down like pretty much no damage from... Yeah, pretty much no damage from bolts. But yeah, it's easier just to have 2 illusion magics just to sit here and take pot shots at the actual lever to get him crushed by the anvil. So yeah, you use that. Heal them when he gets up, start moving towards you, and then you just cast 2 more illusions onto the hammer and it resets. If at any point the lava stops flowing, you can just shoot that from up here as well. It's a very simple loop. If when the fire spirits turn up, all you have to do is crouch, wait for him to destroy them, and then you'll continue about your business. So just showing it off again, you got my 2 boys up here. I don't even really need Karlach into this, but she can still throw stuff if she wants, just to feel like she's involved. But yeah, no, this is probably the easiest fight in the entire game, if I'm going to be completely honest. The next legendary encounter is Bernard, one that I'd actually forgot was even an encounter until I was checking which ones there were. What you've got to be careful about here is sometimes when you attack him, he will shoot lightning at you. It will also affect his minions, so you can sort of use that to your advantage. I did this right at the end of Act 1 because I completely forgot about it. By the time I came back here, I was already in the next tier of spells and whatnot. I think I'm level 7, maybe, yeah, 6 or 7 here. But yeah, you can just burst him down. There's nothing really special to worry about. At this point, you should have enough defenses to be able to take him. I came here after I'd even picked up the Adamantine Forge stuff. And the way I sort of dealt with it is, yeah, I just put down the old Garden of Faith here and just let him deal with it, and then just started smacking Bernard. I think this is still the first turn of combat, so at this point I've also got all the healing items that give me blade wards and stuff. I think I had even cleared the Githyanki camp here, but I hadn't gone on to fight the Inquisitor. I sort of just turned up to kill everyone to take this stuff. You can use that to remove his piercing resistance or one of his other resistances based on the necklace that you've got there. But this encounter, it's not too much of a challenge to do. And you can sort of just face roll your way through it. You don't really need to think or worry too much about anything here. I think I was being overly cautious because I just wasn't familiar with the encounter. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but then after a lot of deliberation, I just decided I'm going to just smack him with things, and then yeah, the Spirit Guardian himself will be able to do it because he doesn't really have any resistances to the damages there. It's mostly to physical where his resistances are. What's also useful is having Scratch in the team as well will cause a lot of enemies to focus on Scratch. So if you can position him well, you can sort of have him take a few hits so the rest of your team doesn't. Now, I know to some people that's absolute sacrilege, and the idea of Scratch taking the damage is a big no-no, but you resummoned him, he's essentially immortal. I think that's the best way to do it. And if you position your party here, obviously Garden of Faith, I absolutely love this. This and Spirit Guardians, 2 of my favourite spells in the entire game, because those things you're trying to get to, they just take a lot of damage. So the Githyanki Inquisitor, when you attack him, will sometimes summon swords, which will then allow him to attack you. And you can get very much overwhelmed if you don't burst him down quick enough, or if you start hitting him with too little damage from various people. For me, this is a very important encounter because it has all the last items left that I wanted to actually finish my build, which was my Reverberation Wizard, because you get 2 more items here. So I believe you get the gloves here, and you get a bunch of other elemental stuff. When I go back from the Hexblade build, now there's going to be a lot of juicy things here for my Hexblade. For now, the way that I sort of done this one is I had a group blessed cast. The plan was also to make sure I don't take much damage. I've got all the stacked healing items, so that group blessed that I used from the amulet there, I added Bless, then I added a second Bless, and I also added Blade Ward to everyone from that group heal from the necklace, because I had the 2 rings, I have the boots, I have the gloves, and I have the helm that adds a bunch of manner of things. It also, for my Karlach, it also gives her tox damage, so I have the necklace from Karga. So even though he parried it, he still took 12 damage, which is pretty funny there. Annoyingly though, where he summoned the sword for me in this encounter, it then meant that I started taking disadvantage of my throws. As you can see here, I'm checking it, and at the first point, I hadn't realised the sword was right in my face. I'm like, what's going on here? And I was like, oh, jet! Another one of those mind claws. However, again, level 7 for this encounter before I even started the fight. Because I saved this one for last, by organising it that way, it makes it a lot easier. But as you can see, actually trying to take down the swords isn't really the play, because they're just really, really strong. So it's actually better to just focus on taking him out rather than the swords. So I upcast a Cloud of Daggers here because we want to do as much damage as I can. Again, it's much smaller AoE, so it can be harder to get some things into it. It's still better than Moonbeam. Moonbeam's very tiny. The idea here is I want to be able to get in as much damage as I can to get the Inquisitor down before too many swords are up. Because now I've got the half weapon damage, I don't really need to worry about their turn. So this is where sort of my healer has allowed everyone to sort of become a tank in their own right. Now, all this psionic damage is low, but I'm not going to ignore it. However, it means that when they actually do come in on me... Oh, look at that jump. 21 damages from jumping in. Crazy. But yeah, as you can see here, we do resist quite a bit of damage. And they're still doing a lot of damage, like, in general. So if you don't have all those rings and all those sort of medical powers up, you will take a lot of damage in this encounter. And I can understand why some people can struggle with this one. Now, I should bear in mind that I went into all of these legendary encounters blind. I didn't look up the abilities before them. I actually just read them at the start of each encounter. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what that does. If there's one thing Rogue Trader taught me to be very good at, it's learning to right-click my enemies and see what their abilities are. So, yeah, he parried it, but he still took 13 damage. And now that he's used his parry, he's actually going to take quite a bit of damage here from the actual throw itself. God, throwing barbs are so damn strong. Yeah, so I can Guardian of Faith it as well. Now, the good thing about that I hadn't realised at the start here with Guardian of Faith, which you might see, is every time he takes an action, it's actually going to blast him as well. So him summoning his swords, I think it can punish it. But yeah, having the blade there, as you can see, I knocked them back up into it. He tried to summon a sword, and yeah, he immediately got attacked for it. So yes, it does punish him summoning his swords as part of his legendary action. So he summoned another one, got attack. So yeah, no, this is the counter. So I just dropped another to guarantee that I was actually going to cause him to get hit and to take an action. So that way he's taken out, and that's it. We've done it. We've got through all the legendary encounters. So that's all of Act 1, and yeah, we've got all of our builds up. So we've got so on our swords bard, we've put on the arcane synergy items, because that's one way to build up some stuff there with the helm and the ring, which you get in this encounter here. I've got the reverberation stuff on my warlock. In the next act, I'm going to pick up stuff like the robe of potency, potent robe, sorry, which will help increase the damage there. And then at level 8, I'll also spec into 2 warlock and then 6 lightning dragon sork, so I can get even more charisma onto there. So shriek will take extra damage. Those reverberation booms will actually increase with my charisma. So there's going to be a lot of damage stacking. We've got all the healing items, which mostly come from in and around the grove, which is now onto my light cleric. And then from the Goblin camp and obviously from the Grove, we've got all the throwing stuff. And from the gloves in the Underdark, then yeah, it's just really strong. Now, I'm really looking forward to the Shadowlands Act 2, because that's where a lot of the other stronger stuff are going to be. But if you do find yourselves interested in these builds and it's not ones that you found otherwhere, do let me know, and I can sort of cover them and do some little build videos just before patch 8. But I'll do the same with the other legendary encounters in Acts 2 and Acts 3, because, yeah, when patch 8 drops, I do want to live stream for the party. And then once that's done, I'll start looking at doing some solo builds, and I'll upload various results from that. But thanks for joining by. Thanks for showing any interest if you do. yeah, depending on how feedback goes, I might do more editing and I might do some more videos. But till next time, remember now, have a good one.